wondering what the design philosophy of KEF was with the blade. I mean, it's quite special how it looks. There must be some...
Yeah, good question. Fundamentally, the blade started as an acoustic idea for the configuration of the 6 drivers that I've described. Everything hung around the UniQ, which is our point source, but how to take UniQ to its ridiculous extreme, which we call single apparent source.
Yeah.
So to equidistantly have put drivers from a point in the middle of the box, all 6 drivers, where there is a point in the middle of the box, so we get 2 massive balls of full frequency sound. All our things start with, it's a loudspeaker, considerations of it has to work as a loudspeaker.
Yeah.
Even our muon
Yeah.
started life as it was a research project and a concept, and the concept behind the muon was how to make a closed box loudspeaker go flat from 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz.
Yeah.
So therefore it was huge. It was a massive slung together tube of bits of wood and bits of wire and, you know, glued together, no design.
Eventually it got the design of a sort of female.
Yes, absolutely. So we hired, in the case of muon, the skills of a world-renowned designer, Ross Lovegrove Design House, our chairman of the GP Group, which is the KEF owner, is actually design educated and moves into the design world, and that's basically what turns him on as well. Yeah. Very lucky for us to be able to have the resource applied to be able to do that, because actually giving body to these acoustic designs is the most expensive bit.
It is.
Muon cost a fortune, and so did Blade. With Blade we got together with a different design house in a New York design house called Echo Design.
Oh, cool.
To give the configuration body.
Yeah.
The spin-off advantage, as explained, was that we have a small, elegant, slim footprint, which is desirable nowadays, but we just didn't want to make a simple thing. We wanted to make something, again, very modern, very attractive looking, and kind of organic. One interesting aspect of the design for me, everybody looks at things differently. Some of the early prototypes of when the designers were working it, of the blade shape, it was basically like this, but the top was flat.
All right.
And it curved back, and it looked quite clumsy and inelegant.
Yeah.
And if you look now, it's actually contoured very slightly, and it's elements like this of small changes which are design professionals.
And of course it looks like a blade at the back.
Yeah, arguably. Actually, the designer's inspiration for the shape was, it's a piece of art called Bird in Space or something like that. It's a bird's wing. But the product was called Blade, the original one. This is the Blade 2, which is 66% the volume of the original Blade, with 6.5-inch bass drivers, but in every respect symmetrical and the same. Yeah. Just more practical to use. In general.
It is smaller.
It's funny because if you go to our website and you look at Blade and Blade 2 next to each other, there ain't much difference. So it sort of belies. Even I thought when I first saw it on a computer, I'm just going, what the hell are we doing? It ain't much smaller. Yeah. But when you look at it in real life, you go, wow. Yeah. It is much much smaller in look.
And maybe in terms of energy dissipation also. So
surprise in terms of energy dissipation, of course we do all the acoustic stuff, and we're good at finite element analysis, and so in other words, being able to predict how something will behave before we actually build something. And nevertheless, we were quite shocked when we actually came to first hear it. We were nervous that well, Blade has to stand for a certain level of performance,
of course.
And so we were nervous that Blade 2 was on the edge, but we were quite subjectively astonished at what the amount of scale and depth it produces, unexpectedly so.
We did a big test of speakers lately, and what I noticed is all producers want to make the best sounding speaker and make it realistic.
What
does KEF want? What is their design philosophy?
All producers, do this, and it's realistic. Is what's your view of realism, of what's real, particularly when it comes to sound? It's a very intangible factor. From a technical point of view, there were two main goals in the research for Blades, which has trickled down into all our stuff, and that was to start with a clean sheet of paper, and from a technical point of view, have a quantum leap forward in the technical ability, fundamental raw ability of our drivers. So to use a bit of a glib term, went over the top, kind of over-engineered them. Our two goals were two things: one, high dynamics; two, low distortion. If I have to say, and I'm nervous to say this, but I'm going to hold, it's an absolute fact. In the mid-range, this new on this new Uniq for Blade and reference, where our ears are very sensitive, if we measure over quite a mid-range bandwidth, world leading, and nobody gets close in terms of low distortion. Almost immeasurable. It sounds like I'm boasting, but we're way ahead. I don't want to go any further. Obviously, we're proud of what we do. There's tons of good things, but considerable work was done. Yes, of course, that's not everything. You can have fantastic measurements, but in the end, what do we use to determine the KEF sound? I've been trying to explain to the audience here about our approach and what the philosophy is. In the end, we use these.
Yes, that was my next question. I mean, is that the most important thing?
It's subjective. We use these, and do we have arguments? Yes. Have we got different? I remember probably the speaker which took longest to actually final tune. It was months, and lots of discussions. Ellis 50.
Ellis 50, it's quite famous now.
Well, it was a huge long time, and also we did a number of things on Ellis 50s on purpose. For example, KEF's association with the classic BBC monitor LS35A. Never meant to be a hi-fi loudspeaker, but audiophiles loved the wonderful properties, particularly in the mid-range, say on violins, on pianos. It was never meant to be a hi-fi loudspeaker. It was meant to be a speech monitor, male voice.
So mid-range was
meant to
extremely clean.
Reproduce male voice. And lots of our partners were kind of begging us to, hey, why can't you bring back the LS50, redo it? And we said no, because loudspeaker technology has moved on a long way, but we have had a nod to the LS50 because it is purposefully tuned in the mid-band to have those kind of properties which everybody loves in the old LS35A, but it's much more efficient, It plays louder without distorting and deeper, and it's kitted out with Uniq for amazing dispersion.
Yeah. Well, one of the design challenges was the cabinet, wasn't it?
The cabinet was a huge amount of work went into the cabinet. Little nuances like, you know, the flexible port to stop standing waves building up inside the port, which
it's extremely small.
Yes, which we've now, you know, and that becomes critical in a small loudspeaker, particularly when you're playing it loud. You get a lot of port chuffing.
Yeah.
Less so with something like the reference. We've got bigger ports, but we've still, nevertheless, adopted.
Yeah, you can tune
adopted that, and can tune it on reference, which it's not tunable on LS50.
No.
But this is a new idea for reference. You know, so there's all sorts of consistency and shared ideas. Whether you play a Muon or a Muo, which is our new Bluetooth loudspeaker,
the small thing,
okay, it's kind of a ridiculous extreme, but there is a KEF sound.
Finally, what's your view in the next 10 years? I mean, we talked a little bit about active earlier on.
Yeah, it's well, the challenge. Yes, absolutely. The challenge for loudspeaker designers, a loudspeaker will be a loudspeaker.
Yeah.
You know, there's always things which push air cones, but it's how do we arrive at that?
Yeah.
There are two elements. There is the demand for convenience, for usability, user experience. Things are much more software driven.
Absolutely.
You know, the ability to adjust DSP in the digital domain.
Yeah.
Also for loudspeakers. So that's where it is going for a lot of people, not for all.
No.
Look at the other end of the scale, the revival of vinyl. You know, even with young people. That's a usability thing. It's an experience. It's a kind of a lifestyle. It's a kind of a tangible.
You can touch it.
Yes,
that's the thing.
But it's a very, very, very interesting world. We are clearly. I mean, we've dipped our toes into the world of active stuff. Watch this space. It doesn't take a genius to work out. I don't think I'm giving away any trade secrets. No. But for me personally, it's a mouth-watering prospect. We had a guy in the audience today who's a high-end guy who's like, sacrilege, because that'll, you know, he's an audiophile and he likes to swap his amplifiers.
It takes the hobby away.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you know, it's how to retain the KEFness, if you like, in all this vast array of product categories. But we never forget it's a loudspeaker.
Yeah. An active LS50 maybe?
No comment.
Okay. Thank you.